Hello and welcome to album review number 10. Today I'm finally getting around to reviewing Discipline by King Crimson, which is another album I was going to get on vinyl, but I just haven't got around to it yet. It's been over a month since I reviewed an album. I reviewed Sounds That Can't Be Made and Hand Cannot Erase on the same day by Marillion and Steve Wilson. I reviewed both of them on the same day because it had been quite a while. Now it's been even longer, but I have done a video. I did that Resident Evil 7 video last week, so that was at least something. But I am filming on my phone today. I think I'm going to start doing this from now on. I got a new phone and it has more space, so my pods are out of space. So I think I'll use my phone from now on. But yeah, Discipline, released in 1981, and it's the album that I have the tattoo of. If that's okay, if there's a certain person in the comments who seems to have a problem with that, but no big deal. I explained the reason why I got a Discipline tattoo. Discipline is King Crimson's 8th studio album, though always remember King Crimson aren't a band that release more than one album. King Crimson are 13 separate bands who have all released one album each. They're not a band who have released 13 albums, always remember that. Also, Bill Buford said something along the lines of that King Crimson aren't a band that can reform. They're a band that just, it's a new band, if you know what I mean. So this was the reformation King Crimson of 1981. They hadn't released an album since 1974. Robert Fripp, of course, is back. Bill Buford's back. 2 new members though, Adrian Belew, if that's how you pronounce that surname, and Tony Levin. So this isn't a reformation, it's a totally new band. So always remember that. King Crimson, I'd personally say King Crimson's music has come in four eras. Era 1 would be In the Court of the Crimson King to Islands, or Island. Era 2 would be Lark, Tongues and Aspect to Red. Era 3 would be Discipline to Three of a Perfect Pair. Then Era 4 would be the Thrack to The Power to Believe. Totally different sounds in each era. In fact, if you go from era to era, it's almost like a totally different band. In fact, I had a friend who the only King Crimson album he'd listened to was In the Court of the Crimson King, and I let him hear a bit of Discipline, and he was like, that is not King Crimson. I do not recognise that as King Crimson. And it must have been quite a shock for people in the early 80s when they stuck this album on, and it sounded totally unlike anything King Crimson had done before. It is a totally different band. So I would agree that King Crimson aren't a band that have gone for decades. It's totally different bands, with the same name. So that's the way I see it. This is a different band to the King Crimson of Red and Lark's Tongues and Aspect, and that's probably a totally different band than the In the Court of the Crimson King Crimson. So King Crimson are one of those strange bands that are a bit more than just a band, and this is my first King Crimson review. Probably the most progressive band ever, because they're just constant reinvention of themselves. They totally reinvented themselves about 3 or 4 times, and I don't know any prog band that has ever done that many times. You've got bands like Rush, which were always changing their styles. They mixed with some synthy stuff in the 80s. They had some alternative in the 90s. Now they're more recent stuff, even though it seems that we won't be getting any more Rush music ever again, unfortunately. As of the recent news over the last week, Alex Lifeson confirming, well, not confirming, but pretty much saying Rush is finished. But the more progressive metal sound of their newer stuff, with albums like Snakes and Arrows and Clockwork Angels. You bands like Van der Graaf Generator that have always changed their style, but they've always had that one sound, Well, not sound, but it's a constant change but still the same. While King Crimson is just a constant change, and everything's totally different. Although, of course, one thing about King Crimson is the only um, consistent member throughout all their albums is Robert Fripp. He's the only member that's performed on every single album. He is King Crimson. You know, he's the only band where I can think that one member defines a band. Of course, all the members of that era define that era of King Crimson, but Robert Fripp is the heart and soul of King Crimson. While Vandergraaf Generator, Guy Evans is just as much a part of the band as Peter Hamill, or Hugh Batten's as much of a part of the band as Peter Hamill. So, and plus, Robert Fripp doesn't sing, so the singer's voice changing throughout the albums and getting new singers in is also going to change the music drastically, because you need to write music that the singer can sing along to. If you write music but it doesn't suit the singer's voice, it's not going to work. A lot of people will know this. Iron Maiden fans will know this. When Blaze Bayley joined the band after Bruce left after the Fear the Dark album, the music, the tempo was slower. It was kind of lower keys. It was kind of darker, because Blaze Bayley couldn't really reach those high notes that Bruce Dickinson could. They had to write the music that fitted his sort of singing style, and that's just sort of the way it works. Oh, I'm sorry, that's a notification sound. I'll turn notifications off next time. I was a wee bit worried about that. I don't get notifications on my iPod. I do on my phone. On my iPod, all I have is music, and I'm actually running out of space on it. My phone's got everything else on it, so you might hear some notification sounds. I'll get rid of them next time, so sorry about that. Anyway, finally getting into Discipline. 7 songs on it, and the first one is called Elephant Talk, which is a very, very strange and very good opener, I'd say. It's certainly, like I said earlier on in the video, it's some King Crimson fans must have been like, what is this? You know, this is totally unexpected. This does not sound like King Crimson to me, but it is King Crimson. Every King Crimson album is as much a King Crimson album as any other. It's the vibe, it's the atmosphere, it's the strangeness, it's the eeriness, it's the sinister sound that makes it King Crimson. You know, and it's all there. It's definitely all in this album. It's, the complex time signatures, all that. And Adrian Below, I think he wrote the lyrics, and his lyrics really add to the sound of the music, because his lyrics are strange and kind of weird as well, but it totally fits that music, which is good, because say for example John Wetton, he'd asked John Wetton to sing and write lyrics again. Robert had asked John Wetton to write lyrics, or Pete Sinfield, if he'd got maybe Pete Sinfield back, then I don't think it would have worked. You need Adrian Below's weird lyrics, talking about sort of random things that, some of it's quite difficult to understand. You need him talking about that stuff, and it fits that kind of music. Math rock is an album, is a way this album has been described. Elephant Talk's interesting because each verse, if you call it verses, talks about jargon. Basically, it seems to be talking about everybody just talks a load of shit. That's what I get from the song. Maybe that's not what the meaning of the song is, but that's what I get from it. Everybody just talks nonsense. That's what I get from it. And each verse starts, words. It goes alphabetically from A to E. Words like debates, discussions. When it gets to D or B, C, it goes like chit chat, chatter, stuff like that. It goes along from A to E, and it's pretty clever. Well, and pretty interesting. It works. It all works. It wouldn't have worked the earlier King Crimson, but it works with this kind of music. And then you've got Robert Fripp going along. Deedle. That's another thing that would describe this King Crimson era. This was the deedle era. There's a lot of that. There's a lot of deedle. I'm not going to do that again, but there's a lot of that in these 3 albums that were released in the 80s. And you've got 2 guitarists now. So you've got Robert, sometimes they alternate. One will do a solo, one will do rhythm. Sometimes they both do a solo. Adrian Below was a very experimental guitarist, the same as Robert Fripp. He adds a lot of strange guitar riffs and guitar sounds, and he's got those elephant sounds going while Robert's just keeping the rhythm with his playing away. Track 2 is Frame by Frame, which is has got which is when the complex time signatures start coming in. It's definitely got that 80s sound. It's a very 80s album as well. These albums are definitely part of definitely the sound of the era that they came from. And Frame by Frame is one of the more 80s sounding songs on the album. It's got sort of cool stuff going on in the background, sort of a cool atmosphere going on. It's quite a chill song. Cool lyrics as well, and not much to say about it. It's not one of my favourite songs on the album, though it was. I think it was the hit single. I'm not 100% sure. Track 3 is Mate Kudasai, but actually, which is strange for me because Discipline, I don't know if anybody else's version. I think this is the 30th anniversary edition. I assume 30th anniversary of In the Court of the Crimson King. This has got a bonus track, and it's a different version of Mate Kudasai, though it's not particularly. I can't tell too much of a difference. The bonus track, and I tend to listen to the bonus track. So for me, right after Frame by Frame, it goes straight into track 4, and then after track 7, it goes into the bonus track. So I tend to skip track 3 and listen to it later on when it's the alternate version of it in track 8. So Mate Kudasai is also a sort of a show that this is maybe a bit more relaxed, easygoing King Crimson. You won't hear as many hard-hitting, really quite dark, angry bits anymore. At least that's the impression that you get with this song. It's a beautiful song. It is. It's a really nice and beautiful song. And I actually made a playlist on my iPod. King Crimson are known for their dark, sinister music. I made a playlist on my iPod that is it's just all the really beautiful, really uplifting King Crimson songs like Island. I Talk to the Wind. Though I Talk to the Wind does have kind of dark lyrics. Sort of saying that the nonconformist is doomed to be lonely. That seems to be the lyrics of I Talk to the Wind. But Mate Kudasai, Exiles, Walking on Air, songs like that. There's some really, really beautiful King Crimson songs that are quite uplifting. Mate Kudasai is one of them. You've sort of I wouldn't really know how to describe it, but it's quite sort of easily strumming. The guitar is pretty easy going, and again, having two guitars totally works on this album. They knew exactly what they were doing with that. It adds so much having the two guitars. The two just play off each other, and Tony Levin on the bass is brilliant. Track 4 is Indiscipline, and I sort of like how at the end of side 1, Indiscipline, end of side 2, Discipline. Now this is probably one of the songs on the album where people really thought, what is this guy talking about? And I actually saw it in a documentary, a guy who was a big King Crimson fan in the 70s, when they released this album, and songs like Indiscipline, like what is this guy going on about? There's a lot of theories to see what this song is about, but it's hard hitting, it's dark, it's got quite sinister, uneasy lyrics. It's sort of old King Crimson brought into the 80s era. That scary, sinister King Crimson that you don't really see again on this album. You don't see it much. You see it later on in their music, in the 90s. That in the 90s and the early 2000s, that dark, sinister King Crimson really did come back. The 70s and the late 60s King Crimson with the really dark stuff did come back later on. But their 80s stuff is a bit more chill, easy going. Though there are some tracks that are pretty pretty dark, like Requiem on Beat, or Industry on To Have a Perfect Pair. There are some pretty dark stuff, but Indiscipline, headbanging song, really heavy track. Great drumming. Bill Buford, greatest drummer of all time. Fantastic drumming. Really great guitar sounds. Two guitars going, making a thunderous sound. One's going wee, while the other's going down, 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 and you get that throughout pretty much the whole album. Side 2 begins with Thela Hunjinji, which I love. I love that song. Though it's not really a song, it's more of an instrumental with some spoken word, which apparently is based on a true story of Adrian Below. He was going around New York with a tape recorder, and he was trying to record some sounds of the city and sound of the streets and some of the violence and that. And apparently he got these gangsters like bumped into him, and they were saying, "Why are you recording?" He got pretty scared. Well, it's sort of portrayed in the song, and you know, everything's just going so well. It's one of the best songs on the album. Tony Levin's got this brilliant bass line going. Bill Buford's just going nuts with the drumming. A lot of it's sort of weird. There's not a lot of it's kind of there's not much rhythm going. Some of it there's no guitar. We're just drumming going with maybe some weird noises. No rhythm guitar, I mean, but there's some weird noises going on. I feel like this whole album, I found it kind of difficult to describe, but Discipline's one of those albums. I say this about a lot of music, but sometimes you just need to hear it. But again, it's another pulse pounding song that really gets you going. There's some really experimental guitar techniques on that song. There's bits where it's just weird noises going on. It all totally works though. It all fits to the uneasy atmosphere of the song, and it's absolutely brilliant. Track 6, maybe my favourite song on the album, The Sheltering Sky. It was the first song I heard on the album. I was just looking up King Crimson songs once, and I came across it. It's a really chill song. It genuinely makes me picture like a purple sky. Really cool. Starts off with Bill Buford. If you've seen him play it live, he's just going about the stage holding this I don't know what it's called, but he's holding it with one hand, going do 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 like that, just walking about the stage. Tony Levin's got this like boom 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 sort of bass sound going on. That's that. I think he's using that Chapman stick. Robert Fripp's got the guitar going, even though it sounds like keyboard. He's used that quite a lot, and he has used that quite a lot since he's sort of made his guitar sound more like a keyboard. Well, Adrian Below's sort of keeping the rhythm guitar with a ding 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 ding. Then it's got a really it's got a sinister sound, that guitar. It's one of those King Crimson songs that's really quite relaxing in one ear, but really quite distressing in the other ear, and it totally works. It just adds that weird sinister quality, but it's got a really ambient middle section that's beautiful, and then it comes back in with a sort of part of the beginning sort of repeats near the end, and some really high notes on the guitar, and it just fades away again with the starts the way it ends with that wee instrument, that wee percussion instrument, whatever he's playing, going on. Probably my favourite song on the album. Then the last track is the title track, Discipline, and this is easily the most complex one on the album, and it's so complex that it's kind of ridiculous actually. The drums are in 17/16 time. I think the bass is in 4/4, but the guitars are constantly changing. The guitars are in like 5/8 or something, and then they change to 9/8. Someone on a YouTube comment somewhere said exactly what time signatures the guitars are playing. I can count complex time, but even this song, it gets me. I'd need to listen to it slowly. It's like Lateralis by Tool. I can count the chorus, you know, the 9/8, 9/8, 8/8, 7/8 part, but there's a lot of the song I'd need to pause it and listen to it slowly to get every single time signature. And this is one of those songs. It's so complex and it's an instrumental. And one thing I noticed about this album is it's two totally different sides. Side ones get much more singing, much more probably more accessible, and then side two is excessive. And King Crimson and Robert Fripp said that exact same thing about Three of a Perfect Pair, and I'd say I'd say it's the same with this album. Much more accessible first side. It's got more songs. Apart from Indiscipline's probably the only song on the first side that's difficult to listen to. But then the whole second side's just weird, proggy madness. And Indiscipline's a fantastic finale with just how complex it is, Bill Buford's drumming, man, so good. So apparently he's playing in 17/16, but he probably changes at some point. And 17/16 is only 1/16th note off of 4/4, so it's not the most complex time signature, but still pretty complex. It's like 1 2 3 4 1 2 3 4 1 2 3 4 1 1 2 3 4 1 2 3 4 1 2 3 4 1, or the guitars, and I think it syncs up. They're all playing. All the instruments are playing different time signatures, which is so experimental, so progressive. Doing that, I mean, I don't even know if that had ever been done before, but it's just goes to show that actually they seem to have this idea that not only can you change time signatures in a song, but different instruments can play in different time signatures, and they can sync up after how many bars or whatever. It's just so ahead of its time. Even though it came out in 1981, it goes to show you that King Crimson are the most progressive band, I'd say, hands down. So progressive, that song. So experimental. So much skill. It's just unreal. Discipline, all around, I'd say Discipline's probably my third favourite King Crimson album, behind Lock, Stock, and Aspic and The Court of the Crimson King. Released in 1981, absolutely fantastic math rock progressive album. Really, really good, and I've tried to review it. Again, I wouldn't really call this a review. It's more of an attempt to comprehend it, is more what I'd call it. So album review number 10, though I'd consider it more of an attempt to comprehend. So that's Discipline. Thanks for watching. Actually, I'm not going to tell you what the next review is because I haven't totally decided yet. I will do a Tool one and a Moody Blues one soon at some point. I'm thinking about doing those. So that's my plans. Though I'm thinking about maybe doing something to do with movies and maybe something to do with video games again. I want to mix it up. But that's Discipline. That's my attempt to comprehend Discipline, and I hope you enjoyed. And I hope I made some sort of sense out of the album, because it's nuts. So thanks for watching.